Welcome, everybody. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Thank you. Okay. First up on the agenda is approval of the August meeting minutes. Any comments? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Great. And we have one property to review, 107 Lantoga. Hi. If you can just, I think you've been here before.
Yes.
You know the routine. Okay, go ahead.
I'm Chris Doherty with Mominy Incorporated, and this is a property at 107 Lantoga Road. We are removing 6 trees. 5 of them are spruce trees, and 1 of them is dogwood tree. Go to the bottom of sheet 2. We did provide a tree replacement formula. We are providing 6 replacement trees, 3 maples and 3 dogwoods. And those trees are shown as gray on this plan. And then I'll go to my E&S plan with the tree protection if you want to review that as well. And the only trees that we are saving on the site are in the rear of the property, where we do have a tree protection around those if it's in the back left corner. And it's just over our limit of disturbance. We put tree protection fencing, and those are all spruce trees. Actually, sorry, those are all cedar trees. And yeah.
Chris?
Yes.
I just have a couple questions. I went over today to look at the site.
Okay.
The neighbor on, if you're looking at the site from the street, the neighbor on the left side, it's a brick house. They have beautiful ornamentals, trees that go right down the side of their house. They're very close to their house. And I would recommend, if you guys could do it, to run the tree protection past those.
Okay.
Because I think with the heavy construction that's going to go on that one side, it might, those might be somewhat compacted or endangered.
Okay, definitely. So maybe along that whole property line,
Yeah,
you
you see
think?
that where your tree protection ends, sort of.
Back here?
Yep. The X's. Yeah, if you could just extend it up toward the street.
Just all the way to the street, you think?
Or just to protect those plants, the
Yeah,
neighbor's
yeah.
plants.
Definitely.
The other thing is that 25-inch maple in the back is magnificent.
Okay.
And I would throw some protection in front of that somehow, because there isn't any right now.
Okay. So I'm just going to sketch on here.
And if one of the cedars, to me, I looked at the cedars, if one of them is too close to the ones you're trying to protect.
Yes.
If one's too close to the garage, I mean, I could see a point for removing that.
Okay.
If it comes to that. I mean, I wouldn't get too hung up on saving that if it's going to be a garage issue.
Okay. There was one where it looked like it was a little tight.
Yeah. And then you had shade tree protection in the right front corner in a square. Is that around a basin or something? Or?
Yeah, that would just be around where the future stormwater system would go.
Okay, so you're just using the shade tree as a barrier?
Yeah, just as a barrier, so that it wouldn't get driven over during construction. Yeah.
Okay. Otherwise, the site looked fine.
Any questions from anyone else? Okay. Looks good. All in favor? Approved? Great. Thanks,
All right, cool.
Chris.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Okay. So folks, now we're going to move on to the 2018 goals, and that's in your agenda packet. So we're going to go over those that are in bold. So the first one is serve our residents via proactive communication. So James, you asked to talk about lantern flies.
Yeah, I just wanted to point it out. I think John or somebody from the township also put something, did you post something on the township website or on Facebook or something? No? Somebody did. for the township, but,
That was our health department.
the health department. So I just thought, everybody should be aware. It's another pest that, should keep an eye out for, and, you can, read about it. If you go on Penn State website, they'll show you all the management, and what to do, and the identification, and anything else you need to know about it. It could harm, I think mostly fruit trees, grapes, stuff like that. But don't want it to get it too bad, I guess.
But if, I heard it affects hops.
Yeah, there you go.
That hurts.
Yeah, that hurts.
Hops?
It's in the plant. Hops.
Okay.
Beer.
That's where I was going. I was just trying to get the connection, okay? Okay, so I guess the question would be, is, do we want to do anything in regards to informing residents? Is there any reason to inform residents, any action that residents can and should take?
Yeah, I think we could put it on the Shade Tree website if possible. And I can put something together to say what can be done if you do see it, to get rid of them.
Okay.
Basically, just want to kill them,
And how
No.
does one do that?
scrape them off.
Okay.
They have
I saw
tape
that.
that you
Yep.
can put around the tree, kind of stick to them and kill them. I believe you can do an insecticide, but I know nothing about that, but you should call a tree service. It's in the township list, and they should be able to help out.
I mean, the person who's been the most proactive person in the township is sitting right here, Sarah Pilling. She saw the infestation at the willows, and the tree was taken down and it was completely stump ground away. But Sarah, just talk about the ailanthus, because that's the host, you know.
Its primary host is the ailanthus, the tree of heaven, which, in case you didn't know, was brought from China and given to William Hamilton, who owned the woodlands. It was thought at that time, in the late 1700s, early 1800s, that it was a cure for yellow fever. It's called the tree that grows in Brooklyn. It's a bloody weed. So we did see it. Fortunately, there's only one ailanthus at the willows. I went out of the township building last week and realized they were all on that hillside about 25 feet up. It needs to come out. Yes, there is a pesticide, but it is lethal to bees. So what some have developed is tape around, the plastic around the tree that's sticky on one side. It's going to climb up the tree if it hasn't already. You catch it and then you take it and you put it in a bucket of kerosene, scrape the egg masses off. I'm told that they will lay their eggs right about now on furniture, on buildings,
Cars.
on everything. And it looks like sort of mud. And we have to scrape it off because the only thing that seems to be liking it is praying mantises, and we don't have enough of them to do it. But we really have to get rid of it. Apparently, they love maple trees, in addition to hops and ailanthus. I mean, it's a real problem. So,
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, James, it sounds like you'll take the action to write something up that we can post on the website?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, good. And then maybe we can even leverage the Penn State website if that's a helpful link. There was also recently something on TV, and I'll see if I can find that, a clip that, showed them so you could readily identify them and then how to remove them. So I'll take a look for that. Okay.
Eileen,
Yeah.
there is information on the Radnor Township website
Because of that
already
notice.
that was posted on August the 29th, and that was actually, I believe, posted by our health department. So it is already on our website.
Okay, so then maybe we just provide a link to that.
Correct.
Okay.
More eyes, the better, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, super. And then, we didn't have it formally on the agenda, but I know Ginny, you had asked something about how to get the communications that we have approved actually up on the website and the links live. Do you need help there, or?
Well, the flyer that we developed doesn't
Yep.
really jive with what's on our Shade Tree website.
Okay.
So I know you had suggested maybe meeting with whoever handles our website. And I don't know if that's, when that would be doable, but it does need, I had received some comments from the Radnor Conservancy folks as well about our website. And so it seems like that would be a next logical step to go through that website, what's on there, and how incorporating some of different folks' comments. And then we could drive that with what our flyer is saying.
Okay. And do we know who owns the Radnor Township website? Who do we work with on that? There's a guy in the booth.
So Jim Doling is in charge of our website, and then he's the one that sets everything up, and then we are in charge of maintaining.
Jim, come out and
our-
introduce yourself.
He's not there.
Oh, he's not there?
No,
It's almost a little bit ago.
that wasn't, Jim Doling's not here. But, so, and then, like, so for instance, the maintenance of the shade tree falls on me.
The website does.
Correct.
Okay, so Trish, we would work with you then to
You
figure out
would-
how to incorporate our flyer into
You
the
would
website?
you would need to discuss your options with Jim Doling first, on what you would like to see done, if it can happen, those things.
Okay.
And then it'll filter, if it needs to be done, then it will come to me, and then I will make those changes
Okay.
that are necessary
Okay.
and maintain it.
So Trish, is it a simple matter of me calling him up at the township and making an appointment with him? Or?
I would send him an email.
Okay. And who should go with me on this, Eileen? Is this something that we should discuss as a group, or should we have a subcommittee for this? You know,
That's a good
James,
question.
Joe, and I, or?
I think we could do it either way. James, Joe, Ginny, all three of you are the communications committee. You could meet with Jim Dole and discuss the options. How do you take what we already have as a legacy website and incorporate the flyer? Who knows, maybe the flyer replaces a lot of the website and is the first thing you see. Would you be open to that? If not, I'm happy to work with Ginny and Jim on this.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe Joe and Ginny. Okay,
Okay.
that's great, thank you. We trust your artistic eye. Okay. Okay, anything else while we're on communications?
Not for me.
Okay, great. We'll go to the fun topic of balancing the budget then. Okay, so this is in regards to the 2019 budget. Okay, John, Matt, and I weren't able to meet between the August meeting and this meeting. However, I did come up with some assumptions. So I thought if we can vet the assumptions here, then between now and the next meeting, October meeting, because we should submit this in October, we can come up with a budget. Figure that's kind of the crux of it, is getting aligned on the assumptions. So I'm going to tackle expenses first. Okay. So, and actually I'm going to tackle first the criteria. So the way I thought about this was resident safety and keeping the lights on first. You know, so that goes right away to hazardous trees, that they would be the first priority in removing them so that we keep residents safe and we keep the lights on, meaning no loss of power during the storms. Second priority would be regreening Radnor Township. So those are kind of the two things. So under the first criteria, I suggested we identify, using the survey tool that Matt's been using, the hazardous trees in the right-of-way areas, you know, because the township would own those. So we would come up with how many are they. We would, I suggest, prorate them, saying if we surveyed X amount this year, how many could we survey by next year? And we would ask for enough money to remove those surveyed in 2018 and those surveyed in 2019. So we get rid of the hazardous trees in the right-of-way areas. We would have to come up with, and John, this is where, or James, I probably need your help in what amount would be appropriate. And we could do it by tree size. You know, we could say, hey, if a tree is 16 inches or less, we say $3,000. If a tree is a heritage tree, $5,000. So we just need an assumption there.
Leave it to John if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, good. And then we would identify the hazardous trees in the non-right-of-way areas. So we can't remove those. Those would be on residents' property if we have them, because the right-of-way varies by street. And there I would say that we at least send a communication out to those residents, say, hey, we advise you to take them down, and by the way, here's a list of approved contractors.
My only question would be, one of the conundrums with the survey, so is it's very difficult sometimes to identify what a township street tree is versus a tree on private property. So in different areas of the township, where I live on West Wayne Avenue, there are some 45 DVH walnuts that are touching the street, actually touching the street, and the township told me they were not John, but someone else told me they were not street trees. Well, maybe they're not based on the cart path or the cartway or some kind of measurement, but Jane and we're being pretty conservative about this. So if a tree is pretty close to the street, if it's within 3, 4, 5 feet of the street, it's being surveyed, even if it is not a township street tree. Because I don't know any other way to do it. I don't think I should just pass that tree up, because if I find out later that I passed it up, I'm going to have to go back. And the great thing about the survey tool is you can go back. So it's not like if you miss something, you can't go back and you can't correct something that you make that's a mistake. So, but I'm just saying that I can't go into somebody's backyard like to look for hazardous trees.
Yeah, but Matt, that's okay, because that was never part of the scope. Like
Well,
the scope was always just the street trees, phase 1, and the parks is phase 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so that's where I'm saying that if we're going to get into advising residents about hazardous trees, I don't know who's going to do that, because right now, I don't.
It's just the hazardous trees that are along the street that could potentially fall on the power lines.
Well, that's going to be a Radnor issue. That's not going to be a resident issue, because we're not technically looking at trees in residents' yards.
But my guess is because the right-of-way varies per street, you're going to run into what you just talked about, where it's not in the right-of-way, but it literally sits right on the edge of the
Right, I agree with you.
resident's property.
I'm trying to just make sure that, so what we're doing is right, because every tree that has an intervention with wires, cables or power, we're doing, whether it's like in my yard or on a street tree, we're doing all those trees.
Yeah.
So but what I'm saying is I don't know who's going to, I'm not going to be able to say that.
No. What I was thinking there, good question, because I thought about that. Well, how do you know what is and isn't on the right-of-way? So hopefully if this tool, if we can get, let's say, a printout, a report, and it says these are all the hazardous trees, we then should be able to give it to someone in the township who can review the address and the location and say, yes, that's in the right-of-way, or no, it isn't. And then we'd have our 2 buckets. The right-of-way trees, we want to set aside funds to remove. Those that aren't in the right-of-way, we could send a letter to the residents.
Yeah, the mapping tool with the app, it actually maps using GPS or GIS. It maps all the trees on a Google Earth map. So you know where the trees are.
Yeah.
That's not going to be an issue. So I think the issue will just be, someone in enforcement in the township saying, that's our responsibility. So, but at least I think from the commission's point of view, we'll be able to show people, the township and residents, where the bad trees are.
Right, but we just need to categorize them in those 2 buckets.
Fine.
So that was my idea. Next set. So now we've done the hazardous trees. Next up would be the ash trees. So presumably if it's an ash tree and it's hazardous, it's in the hazardous bucket. Now you're looking at healthy ash trees. And again, same categories, right-of-way, non-right-of-way. The right-of-way we can take action on, and I think there we have to decide we either treat, we take down, or we do nothing. But we could come up with numbers to do each one of those things.
We have those numbers.
They were provided to the township about a year and a half ago. For ash tree removal, for ash tree treatment,
I know.
both methods, yes.
Yeah, I know we provided numbers, John. Per memory, when we did it last year through this committee, unless it was done somewhere else in the township, we just took like a ballpark estimate, and we did it based on some assumptions. Here I was recommending if we use the tool and get a printout of all the healthy ash trees and then do the same exercise. Okay, if we surveyed this many in 2018, let's assume we can do the same amount in 2019. And then let's put them in the two buckets, right-of-way, non-right-of-way. And then the right-of-way ones, we would put down, this is how much money we need to take a certain action, if we even want to take action.
I think to be realistic about this, we need to determine which ash trees need to go, like the ones that are dead or in severe decline. Because what we're seeing is like the predominant, the ash trees are not the predominant street trees in Radnor. There are street trees that are ash, but there's a lot of, it seems like more ash on private property, more ash in the parks.
Yeah.
So I think we're finding a tree that is dead or dying and it's an ash. That should be prioritized to be taken, because if we try to treat every ash,
Oh,
you know,
I agree.
I don't think we're going to, you know, it's not going to happen. And
Yeah.
and so
And yeah, and I don't know the answer. That's why I'm saying we'd have to come up with a budget and just the list of ash trees. So it may be prudent if an ash tree is small, maybe it's less expensive to take it out and even do a replacement tree versus, okay, if there's an ash tree and it's a heritage, maybe that's worth treating. I don't know. But we could kind of run the numbers and decide what we want to ask for from a budget standpoint. Go ahead.
I mean, from our goal of maintaining the canopy, we got to look at the value of these ash trees and how long it would take a new, planting a new tree. Wouldn't it be, in other words, I think it'd be better to spend our money keeping the trees that are healthy now with us instead of planting new, cutting down, and spending cutting them down and planting new. Like, I just think we need to save every ash that we could that's not affected.
I'm on the fence there, and the reason I say that is, let's say you have an ash tree and it's only 8 inches in diameter. If you have to treat that tree for its life, or at least presumably the next 10 years, it could be more cost-effective to replace it with a tree that wouldn't need
Great
treatment.
point. Yes, yeah, you're right. We should actually identify a certain diameter where the cost benefit wouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And from what I hear from tree people that I talk to, unless an ash tree is in superb condition, if it shows any decline, if it shows any thinning in the canopy or the crown, or if it's necrotic at all, you're not going to save it with the treatment. So identifying the really healthy ash trees is easy because we haven't seen that many.
Yeah. Matt, are you sure? I guess I was told as long as only 30% of the canopy is affected, they could still be saved. John, did you?
Once a tree is impacted with the EAB,
It's done? Even if it's just flagging a little bit?
there's no cure, there's only effective.
Wow. Okay.
But a lot of what you're seeing out there is not EAB. You're seeing a lot of what's called ash yellows out there, and you're seeing a lot of ash anthracnose, which is rapidly spreading just because of the humidity and the moisture we've had. So I'm getting tons of calls about trees allegedly having EAB when actually it's just ash yellows or ash anthracnose. So
But is that a problem too, though, John?
no, it's just a fungal disease. I mean, it's an issue, but it's not a
It won't cause the tree to die?
correct,
Okay.
more of a stress-related factor.
Okay. And then, so that's all I had under the criteria of resident safety and keeping the lights on. Kind of the hazardous trees, the ash trees. Okay. Now we go to the fun part of planting trees.
Oh, can I?
Yeah, of course.
I would add one little thing to the
Mhm.
the idea of keeping residents safe and keeping Radnor beautiful and all that would be, I think this survey is going to show, it's going to show a lot of cable pico issues where we might want to, after we do sort of an analysis of what we have, bring those bring the cable companies and PECO in to meet us, or at least to meet someone from the township, to talk about the issue of so many cable wires that they're dead, but they're still hanging. And when they put a new cable wire in, they just put it in and they don't take the old ones out.
Okay.
And so I think the survey tool it's going to produce that information, so why not use it?
So Matt, just a question, how does the survey tool show if there's like extra cable wires there that
Photos.
aren't in use?
We take photos of every tree we survey.
And you can, from the photo, you can tell if the cable wire is in use or not?
No, but I mean, you know that the 4 cable wires, 4 cable wires cannot all be carrying cable.
Okay. Yeah, I think if you can provide that list somehow from the tool, that's fantastic.
That's all built, that's baked into this program.
Okay, okay. Okay, so not a cost item, but an action item,
Yeah.
that we address that with PECO.
Yeah, I think we get those
Okay.
companies in here and say like, this is not anecdotal evidence anymore.
Mm-hmm. Super. Okay. Okay, now to the planting side. So this one is, I think, a little bit more subjective because we could use what we've surveyed so far. We could do the same exercise, assuming we do the same amount of survey in 2019. We could identify what are the gaps in 2018, assume that we see the same amount in 2019, and request funds to plant there. Now, the subjective part is, well, what do you consider a gap? How do you define what is a gap?
It's complicated because, so we did Inverary today,
Okay, okay.
and there are technically no street trees there. But there's a lot of trees in Inverary, and they're all like set back in the neighbor's property and flower beds, and they're beautiful and everything. So someone could go, there's gaps, but there's not gaps. I mean, you don't want to just jam a bunch of street trees there. And then other places we've been, like parts of Garrett Hill are just, it's brutal. Like they've lost old sycamores, they've lost old stock just because, it aged and died. And there's block after block where there's no trees. Or there's street trees that are planted by my wife and they're not doing very well, or they're the wrong variety, or so there's weird types of gaps. So it's not like just, and so like like Wayne around the middle school, it's like there's 40, 50 street trees per block strip there. And so, but I mean, the gaps will show. It's just that I don't think we'll have one definition of a gap.
Okay. So therefore, we could take a look at the tool, we could identify what looks like gaps or bald spots, then we'd have to do a visual inspection to see, is that indeed a gap, or are there actually private resident trees, right behind that kind of fills the gap?
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
Are we still planning on trying to prioritize planning in the downtown district?
Yes, and let me clarify that. We would take out the Wayne Business District area because there's a whole separate project for that. So that is out of scope. But to Ginny's point, per our master charter, the priority is the most densely area of Wayne populated, which we said, hey, we would start with Wayne Center and work our way out to kind of get the biggest bang for the buck. Most residents would have the most benefit. So we would take that into account in looking at these gaps. Now, the one thing that's going to be a little bit of a mismatch is when Matt did the survey, and a lot of it during the summer, you prioritized the areas like Villanova, like before the students come back, or Conestoga, because, okay, there's less traffic on it when everybody's at the shore. So we didn't necessarily start from the center and work our way out. I think you're doing that more so now, Matt, now that everybody's back in town.
Yeah, there's a map, for anyone who cares, there's a
Yeah.
map here, and the yellow highlights show what we've done.
Oh, perfect.
And anyone's welcome to come up and take a look. It's actually going faster in some places than I thought it would, because in some places, like neighborhoods around. Oh, I'm sorry. And so you all heard about the map, though, right? So, okay. I know. So some areas that we surveyed recently, which weren't in the center, but I just wanted to take a look at them. There are no wires, so all the wires are underground. And so you zip through some of these areas. So it's just, there's parts of Radnor that are the survey is gonna go faster than I thought it would. I think there was a question about that. I don't know why I even said this, but except that I thought I was answering a question.
Oh, but the question, I think, was, we know during the summertime you did the areas that are typically congested, let's say September to May. But now that those areas were in September and they are indeed congested, I just wanted to confirm you are working from the center out.
Right, that's true.
Okay.
And some of the areas we haven't hit are like the state roads, like 320 and.
Okay.
You're not going to do those, Matt. They're state roads. We don't have any jurisdiction over those.
That is the best news
Yes.
I've heard in 3 weeks.
Yeah, I will get you a list.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, we have no
Because
jurisdiction over those
I didn't know
trees.
how we would do it anyway,
Correct, yeah.
but.
And we don't want you walking down those roads anyways.
What's unfortunate, though, is that there are a lot of trees on those roads.
Okay, but that's good. We'll take that as a nice pass. Okay. Okay. The other expense that we have is the fall planting. Now, that we could just keep as is. It's $25,000. We could request that again, or we could say, hey, we want to take the fall planting and repurpose it towards the gaps and maybe even add more into the gaps. I don't know what folks' thoughts are there. Hey, Laura.
Laura Luker. The fall planting is a donation from Chanticleer. They do that every year and have with the Conservancy running it with Kimberly. So that something is a gift.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I didn't know that. I thought Bill White told us it came from the Radnor Township, that Radnor Township
Now,
funded
the 40
it.
trees that are actually, did it go online
Because I thought.
today? Did the sign-up go online today? Oh, you don't know? Leah would know. Okay,
I had nothing to do with it.
okay.
No, I don't think so. What am,
I'm actually not sure that it did, if Leah was responsible, because their whole system was down today.
Okay. Remember Kimberly Donches came
Yep.
up here? She told you about how every fall, she and Chanticleer and us, the Conservancy, we work together to put, secure about 40 trees.
Yep.
And the bid went through the BOC a couple nights ago to approve the $24,000 of the planting, or digging and planting and also getting the trees. So there's 40 trees that'll be up for,
right,
and that is, that money comes from Chanticleer.
okay,
So
okay.
extra tree planting would always be good, but that would be something you'd put in your budget.
Okay, then I can circle back with Bill White. Why do we show 25,000 in our budget? I don't think we show that as income. We just show it going out. I think what I can do is, why don't I
Yeah.
get with Bill White and I'll just
Yeah.
figure this out, because looking at the finance sheet, it doesn't look that way.
Okay. Well, maybe I'm wrong with something, but I do know.
But either way, that would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And then there was the hope to be able to do a similar type of planting in the spring.
Mhm.
That was something that was a suggestion, and trying to budget for that. But that would be, trying to either get grants for that, or,
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how you want to do that. But.
Yep. Okay.
Laura, you said 40, so it's 40 trees.
Yes.
And the cost is 24,000, is that, like, I'm just trying to get we get 40 trees for 25,000.
Yeah, no, that cost goes towards the contractor for planting them. So what happens is that money's donated. A RFP goes out to contractors. One contractor is awarded the work, and then that part is for the actual implementation of planting those trees as well.
Yes, so on Monday night, they approved Bryn Mawr Landscaping Company, who got the bid for 40 trees, and there's a list of the trees. Each tree is $620 to install, buy and install. And I believe Leah from Public Works is working on the sign up, which residents can call in or sign up online to be able to purchase for a 35, 45, I'm not quite sure what the dollar amount is. It's basically just to have skin in the game. And these trees will go on Radnor Township right away of people's property. And that the residents are responsible for the maintenance of it. So.
What kind of trees are they, Laura?
The list of the trees, there's 10 black gum, there's 10 hackberry, there's 10 swamp oak, there's 5 yellowwood, and then 5 Rutgers dogwood. Pink.
Thanks.
Yep. So, find out where that
Yeah, because I
25
just
came
pulled up the budget, and 24,800 is in there as an expense in 2017, but there's no revenue coming in to offset that. So it just looks like it's coming out of this budget, but we'll find out. Maybe something is different this year than last year.
You know, I think everybody should know this, the public should know this. How many trees is Radnor responsible for planting every year? Like, I mean, we're talking about 40 in the fall. How much does the township actually pay for? Like, does anybody know how many we normally put in the spring or? Zero?
Yeah.
0. Okay.
I mean, they do a couple memorial trees. There were some, actually, zero is probably not the correct answer, like Fenimore Park, that was reconstructed, a lot of new trees went into those areas. There are some memorial trees that get planted throughout the year. So there is some planting within the parks, but in terms of the right-of-way, probably 0 is a good number.
Yeah, and let me just correct myself on the budget. When I look, for 2018 budgeted, there is 25,000 budgeted for transfers from general funds. So that may indeed be a Chanticleer donation, and then 25,000 going out for the big tree planting. That was not the case in 2017 or 2016. But in 2015 and earlier, there is 25,000. So maybe some years Chanticleer donates and some years they don't, and maybe that's the variance I'm seeing. But in either case, I'll follow up with Bill White, but 2018 looks good.
Well, what's this?
So we'll have to figure out 2019.
What's this budget for street tree planting for 83,000 in 2018?
Yeah.
Okay.
Things have changed there. It's a little bit more in depth. We had to get an engineer involved. There's some lighting issues, some infrastructure issues. So most recently, Mr. Norsini contacted Orsatti and Stewart to put together a design phase, and currently they're negotiating that right now.
Okay.
So John, is there a tree survey work going on?
There's not a tree survey. You don't need to do that area. It's going to be part of the design phase.
Okay.
Okay, help me further understand. Now, what authority do we have to, do we just recommend, do we give a
Recommend.
recommendation to the township to, I mean, we should be all in agreement that the township should spend, especially this year with the emerald ash borer, and the fact that we're identifying all this canopy. We really should be recommending that the township start planting a lot of trees on the taxpayers.
I think
Darn
what we
right.
need, though, to make that argument at BOC, I think we need some data. So one of the things we've talked about is what what was the tree canopy, let's say 5 years ago, what is the tree canopy today? That will help make our argument. And then what is the benefit of having trees? So that's the data we need to gather. So that's also where I had it as one of my items is, we have the tree survey, which is a great start, but that doesn't tell us, hey, what was the tree canopy? So that's where I didn't know, is there a way even just to get aerial photos? Because it could even be qualitative. It doesn't have to be quantitative, and it could be 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and today, and you just look and you can see the visual difference.
You can use something called Google Maps, John, I'm sure, right? I mean, don't you think? Because you can go back and put in 10 years ago and take an aerial
You
photo.
can, but Joseph has a good point. I mean, all that stuff, collecting that data is very important. We do it day in and day out. However, the stuff takes time. It could be 2-3 years before we collect all that data and be able to provide a very formal report to the BOC. What I think we should do is come up with a realistic number of trees that this group would like to see planted yearly. Come up with a list of trees to say, let's pick a hypothetical number of 30 trees every year out of our budget or a budget we're going to ask for, and pick locations and use that as a stepping stone until we, gather that data. But we should be planting trees, absolutely. And 30 is a great number for us to handle and manage as a group. We can set a day that we do that in the fall, ask for that money, go to the BOC, write a memo. These are the reasons why. Joseph, since you brought it up, you should draft that letter, and then we can do it in-house.
Yeah, I would say it'd be part of the overall budget, but I don't know why we'd have to wait 3 years to gather this data. If there's some way online that we can look at aerial photos and we can make our case showing those photos, I think we could do it that way. What
It's a little
data-
bit more. It's a little bit more detailed than just showing Google Earth photos.
And I poked around for a little bit, and so the most intense studies in Pennsylvania are 2006, 2007. And that's like 11 years ago. And you can't really compare Google Earth maps to that stuff. It's the way they do those things, it's so detailed. I mean, you can really open that map up and get down to blocks and look at what's there. But I don't think 2006.
Yeah, and I don't know if we even need that. Like, if we could just show somehow an aerial view, and you could see, let's say hypothetically, there's 50% coverage, and you can visually see that there's a difference today, 30% coverage, maybe that will help make our case. Because otherwise, I think it's going to be tough to make the case to the BOC just to ask for an arbitrary amount of trees.
Well,
They may say yes, but I think we have a stronger case if we can show, hey, there has been a decline.
This is just in driving around and doing the survey, but I'm seeing neighborhoods that are really, I think they were desperate for planning plans.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you do it. I mean, I don't think we need a massive overlay of Radnor to determine that. I think we just say, there's parts of Garrett Hill that just need trees. I mean, they need trees bad. There's Farm Road, that area needs.
But maybe we do that, Matt, just using your tool. That should give us a visual, an aerial visual that would show, so to speak, bald spots. And we could say, hey, based on 2018, we can identify these spots. We should have probably, if we do the same amount of surveying in 2019, we expect we'll have an equal number of bald spots. So let's ask for enough money to replenish those areas. Maybe we do something like that.
I think that's a great idea. I'd drop the term bald spot.
What would you like me to call them? Oh, sorry, I get it.
Bear.
Bear spots, okay, duly noted. Okay, bear is great. We'll go with bear spots.
Eileen, also
Yes.
for planting, they have the stormwater fee or whatever it's called. There's a lot of money in that.
250, yeah.
There doesn't seem, I'm not sure what it's being used for or whatever, but
Okay.
maybe we could
Stormwater
ask them
management.
to use some of that money because trees do help
Okay,
with stormwater,
that's a good point.
since
Yeah.
it's there.
Repurpose some of that fee, okay.
Just an idea.
No, that's great. Okay. Okay, so I think the key is, if we can get cracking with this tool, and we'll plan an offline meeting, let's hopefully for the first half of October, and see how much data we can pull out, and then we'll just prorate that for 2019, and then from there come up with the budget. But I think that will help. For the first time, we'll have quantitative data. Yeah, okay, super. Spring planting. Laura mentioned that. I think it was. Okay, so yes, when Kimberly Donchis was here, one of the things she did suggest is if we wanted to, an idea that they've been thinking about is we could have a spring planting. The idea being maybe we choose smaller trees that purposefully go underneath wires. I guess dogwoods, cherry trees, things like that. Different than the big fall tree planting. So we could ask to set aside money for that as well. And that would be something if we run it the same way where the residents choose.
Yeah, we can get money for it.
Yeah, my suggestion would be maybe, let's go ahead and put our big wish list together, put it in the budget, then when we meet, we can decide, okay, do we need to prioritize this list?
Sounds good.
And, you know, kind of take it from there. Okay, and then John and Trish, do you know when the next BOC meeting is or when the October one is? Like when we would need to be ready with this? What's that? Second Monday of October. Gotcha. Okay, so we would have to target that one or the second Monday of November, I assume. Okay.
Second and fourth of
Gotcha.
the month, BOC.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, great. So we would probably target the fourth Monday of the month. I think the second would be a little ambitious. Okay. I just want to do a double check on the calendar. Give me 1 second. Because I want to see where this falls in comparison to our meeting. So our meeting would be the 24th. Ooh, theirs is the 22nd. Okay, so in order to approve this and be able to present it on the October 22nd, we would need to do an ad hoc meeting beforehand. So are we okay doing that? We could choose the 17th. Or Trish, I'm just going to throw it out there. Is there a way, our meeting is scheduled for October 24th, the fourth Wednesday of the month. Could we move it to October 17th?
So I would have to check the availability for a meeting room. It would definitely have to be recorded, if
Yep.
not televised. So I'll need to see what's available. You know,
And I guess, really, if folks are open, we're asking, could we get a date, if we want to present this October 22nd, could we get a meeting date for our Shade Tree Committee, let's say the week of October 15th? It doesn't necessarily have to be a Wednesday.
like I said, I don't know what's available.
No, that's okay, but can you check? That would be the goal.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. Sounds okay? Okay. Let's see, it's October 7th. Yeah. Okay, so we'll target the week of October 15th. Okay. Is there anything else that should be in the budget, either on the revenue side or the expense side? Oh. I can answer my own question because I forgot. I purposefully didn't put in grant dollars. I thought that would be all upside. If we write a grant, it would have a stated purpose, and then we would, use those funds for that purpose.
I think we should just try to put a lot in there, ask for a lot of tree plantings, and if we get $25,000 worth, that's better than what we've been doing.
Okay.
I'd ask for about 500,000 in plantings from this
Okay.
somewhere, and then if they give us like 20,000, we did good.
I'm
Right?
looking at,
They can't say no to everything. Hmm?
our total budget for 2018 is $133,000 spent expenses. That includes $83,000 that was added in for the Township Business District. So on a typical, so this is an unusual year, 2018. 2017, the expenses, at least actual, I can't see what the budget was, were $36,000. So we may be in a tough spot if we ask for tenfold. but maybe we can strike somewhere in the middle. Any other expenditures or revenue? Okay, super. So we'll assume that we at least have all the items covered. I'll look to meet with Matt and John, hopefully in the next week, and then we'll put together our assumptions. I'll send it out by email ahead of the meeting. But we won't make any decisions or discuss it over email. We'll wait until we come together that week, but at least this way everybody has time to absorb it. Okay, great. Anything else on budget before we close out this topic? Okay, let's see. Okay, next on the list was number 5, partnering with our stakeholders. And although Claire couldn't be here, she was on the agenda for status on BOC, having a BOC member join the Shade Tree Committee. So we spoke yesterday. She spoke to Lisa, the president of the BOC. Lisa seemed very positive on this, but asked for a formal request. So I sent Lisa an email request yesterday outlining what I saw, the roles and responsibilities, and then I also gave her a copy of our 2018 goals, just so when she shares this with the BOC, they can see, hey, look, this is the direction we're going in. Okay, so hopefully we'll hear back soon. Then last item on our goal agenda is be green and be efficient. So here we are trying out our pilot. Where we decided we would only have 2 hard copies of drawings, we would share them, and everything else would be electronic. Any feedback so far on, we only had 1 property to review, but any feedback so far on how that's going?
I thought it was perfect.
Yeah.
The way we did it, yeah. Just an email.
Yeah.
Worked out well for me.
Joe?
We're bringing a model.
Okay, okay. Matt, you have your hard copy?
Nothing changed for me.
Okay. Okay, Ginny?
Yeah, it was fine for me.
Okay, good. Yeah, I did it the electronic way, and this has been quite easy.
Yeah.
So, and Trish, for you, is this saving you time? That was also part of our goal?
I was hop, skipping, and jumping. Yes. It saved
Fantastic.
a lot of time, actually.
Okay, then let's.
And a lot of paper.
Okay. So let's do this again next month, stay the course. We'll have Jack, Claire, and Jeff with us, so we'll make sure, yep, this works for everybody, and then if so, we'll continue forward. Okay, good. We're getting greener.
One more item was the, I'm not sure if you were pointing that up, for the inventory. I did reach out to Radnor Township High School.
Oh, for the internship?
Yeah, or
Yeah.
somebody that wanted to volunteer or something to help you
Yes.
out. So I sent somebody an email, and I also reached out to Temple Ambler campus, sent them an email. Haven't heard back yet, but
Okay.
if I do, I'll
Yeah, James,
report
thanks for
next
doing
week.
that.
Yep.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. That's all I had down under the goals. I think we covered everything. Was there anything else folks wanted to mention before we leave this topic? No? Okay. Let me just flip. I have many things open. Okay. Hang on 1 second. Okay. Other business, both items were under Jack. He isn't here, so we'll table those. Hazardous trees, there is a list provided here. This is topic number 8. Any comments? Okay. John, I assume you got to look at these. I know you normally do. Okay. Okay. Great, so all approved on hazardous trees? Aye. Okay, very good. Now we'll go to number 9, trees removed by Radnor Township. John, we'll assume you looked at these too, and that's why they're being removed? Okay. Am I safe in assuming that these are hazardous and that's why they're removed?
They're trees that either have failed, hung up in another tree,
Yeah,
are dead, or in a right of way. But yes.
right, these would right, these would basically be all our right-of-way hazardous trees versus the previous topic.
Or trail, or absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
So all of those trees were requested by Public Works.
Okay,
to be removed or
That's
cut?
an
or
in-house staff,
it's
yep.
Right.
Yep.
So this list that I get is actually from Public Works.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thanks, Trish. Number 10, public participation. Anyone from the public care to participate? Okay. Adjournment. Any closing comments before we adjourn?
We just asked.
Oh, sorry. Oh, maybe you didn't hear. Please.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was hunting for my papers.
That's
I
okay.
apologize.
Welcome.
I sat there going, I got a paper.
That's okay.
Hi, my name is Jane Galley, and I live on 7th Ward on Barclayton Road. And it is with great pleasure, which I just forgot my other one. Hold on. You have yours, right? You're good. That I present this to you from the Willows Park Preserve. It is our tree inventory and management plan, which was donated to the WPP, which is the Willows Park Preserve, by Bartlett Tree Service, and they did a complete study. They are also, well, Sarah will go into the particulars, but it is a $20,000 donation from them, gotten by our wonderful president, who has done a fabulous job of procuring this for us in a complete inventory of the whole tree. So of all the trees that are there. Those are
Thank
damaged,
you.
everything. And this will be the first step for declaring the Willows Park as a level 1 arboretum. And this is how we're going to do it, as well as, so this all comes together as a full group. And I just wanted to read and put into the record the letter. This was a letter from Tom McCarthy, who is the arborist for Bartlett Tree. And his response to Tish's request was, I have a personal interest in this project, as I am excited to help. I grew up playing and exploring the willows. Now we bring our children to do the same. This is one of the last few local places where adults can come to relax and enjoy nature and the quiet while the kids can be kids. In today's generation of cell phones and video games, I enjoy the fact that kids can come to the Willows and explore, observe nature, and get a little dirty. Mm-hmm. And this is why we, as I'm on the committee, have given of our time and effort, as you guys do to this thing, to get this project going. We are moving forward, and Sarah will tell you, I know who you are. Sarah will give you the particulars of this, because it's extremely exciting for us anyway. Go ahead, Sarah.
Thank you. Sarah Pilling, Garrett Avenue. I know Matt, but I don't know any of the others, so you don't know me. I'm a science graduate. I have an associate's degree in horticulture from Temple. I'm a graduate of the Arboretum of the Barnes Foundation when Jack Fogg was still in his prime, Dr. Marks, John Penny from Drexel. I have a whole handful of special courses from Longwood and from Morris Arboretum. So Tish really didn't have to ask for this. It was offered by Tom McCarthy because he grew up in this area and played at the Willows. It will become a level 1 arboretum. To give you the background of that, if you don't know, it is the labeling of at least 24 trees, and Bartlett is going to provide those 2 inches by 4 inches, genus, species, common name, and the QR, whatever it's called, code. And per John's suggestion, there are 100 and some odd trees that are identified in here. They will be around the drive so that they are ADA compliant. If you look at it, we now know there are 48 species in this area. This does not include skunk hollow. It doesn't include anything really away from the drive in and out. It's all on a Google map. It's identified. They've identified the trees, which in their opinion need to come down now. There are 12 of them and they have identified trees that are young, that are mature, and those which are over mature. So it gives a roadmap for the township in the future. It also gives a roadmap for, as climate change begins to impact our trees, where we can add trees to the Willows Park with trees that are going to survive with climate change and that diversify the species so that in effect we can begin to teach the Radnor residents more about their trees. It's also an opportunity for education when the building is redone. I spent more years than I would like to think of identifying the trees around the park houses. This is when I was running the Fairmount Park Horticultural Center. The study was done so that when the Fairmount Park redid some of those houses, they would know which was native and historic as to which was an introduction, depending on the time. And I spent several years and wrote a book about it. So I feel qualified to do this. I also identified the Michaud Grove of Oaks, which is on the grounds of what is now the Hort Center. It was Horticultural Hall in 1876, and it was quite an experience. I don't know whether you know of the Michauds. They were French. Father and son came to the U.S., and actually, the interesting part of it, at least I think it's part of it, it was not supposed to be the Lewis and Clark expedition to go across the country. It was to be the Michauds, but they were French, and they were buying the Louisiana Purchase. So they weren't so sure, they weren't spies, and there was a spy, a French spy here in this country. His name was Citizen Genet. So they dumped the Michauds and found Meriwether Lewis and Clark, and they had to study botany at the University of Pennsylvania in order to identify the plant material that they were going to find as they go west. So it's my interest in not only knowing what these trees are, but where appropriate, telling the story of the trees, particularly those that relate to Philadelphia, which was rich in botany until 1810 when they went to New York. So those are the plans, and this is just a wonderful infrastructure for us to do that work and to maintain the trees. There's a lot of tree work that needs to be done, but it gives us a roadmap. So I just wanted to tell you that. I think this is really exciting. And at least one other local arborist who's a very fine person, but I won't reveal his name, he learned about it, and he wants to come and walk the garden and decide how he wants to be involved in this whole project. So one of our goals is to get a number of arborists, particularly those that are ISA. And, oh, I forgot, I was the executive director of Pendle ISA for 5 years, I guess. They were having drinks and dinner, and they were doing the books on the back of an envelope. So we took them through becoming legit. And it was a wonderful experience. So the hope is that we'll get more of those arborists involved doing some of the work, planting trees, because we're losing a lot of that canopy as well. So thank you.
I just have one more quick mention. I don't know if they still do it at the elementary schools where you have to collect leaf samples. Well, they can go to the Willows Park, especially with this, and it is up on our website, and get all those leaves with all the names and everything all done. So just FYI, kids.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you. I think that was great. It's really, I think we'll look forward to seeing this report. Just kind of leafing through it quickly, it looks quite impressive, and what a nice donation, I guess, by Bartlett.
Yeah.
Very nice indeed. And I assume the 12 hazardous trees, they will be removed by the township? That's how that, or under Parks and Rec? Yeah. I just want to make sure we don't need to set aside money for them, or that we shouldn't be thinking of that for the future. So I guess I should say, any questions for Jane and Sarah?
No, thank you, guys. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mrs. Gelly.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for all this work and effort and your enthusiasm with this. It sounds great.
It's a labor of love, for sure, the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay, super. On that note, I think we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.